If you are at a crossroads in your life and the direction that you need to take requires you to make some very hard decisions, you do not want to miss this next episode. We are going to break down what it requires you to do to make the proper decisions for your life right after this. What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi, I'm mindset coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of The Mindsetters, where we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. I am your host, Coach Lorraine Lindsey, a certified peak performance and life coach. If you need assistance with coaching, you can reach me at CoachLorraineLindsey.com. And before we talk about this show and the ability to make decisions, do not forget to hit the subscription button, give us a thumbs up, send us your comments, and also send us topic ideas. I love to hear from you all. And again, I am very appreciative of the continued support. So today we have a recurring guest. He has been on the show before where he had to make some huge life decisions for his life. He fell from a 4-story building. He survived. He had a life of alcoholism, and now he is living a life of purpose and sobriety. And he is here to share some of his decision making, and we're going to break this down kind of like in a coaching way so you guys can kind of see how I coach. He's going to share some decisions he's having to make right now. So get your pen and paper out. I have some notes for you guys to take. Decisions are not easy. So let me introduce Dorian before we talk about decisions. Welcome back, Dorian.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell everybody a little about yourself? Instead of me reading your bio, tell us about you, what you got going on. You are also my fitness coach. You're getting me in shape. I appreciate you. Yeah, so you're speaker number one.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about your speaking, the charities that you're involved with, and then, of course, your training and how that training was something that helped you focus and change your decision from out there drinking, doing your thing, to let me focus and be a coach and a trainer and a speaker who inspires a lot of people, especially the youth. So that was a mouthful, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I am a fitness coach here in Las Vegas. I've been coaching for about 4 years now. And over the past year and a half, I've been involved in many different charity events that I've put together. I've collaborated with different coaches in the city, and we get together, we find a cause that we support, and we do our best to bring as much awareness and raise as much money as we can for those nonprofits, especially the smaller ones, especially the up and coming ones who might need that help and that awareness. And I had my first speaking gig about 2 weeks ago. Shout out to my boy. Yeah. Shout out to my boy, Devontae Woodson. He has a great nonprofit, Greater Youth Sports, helping the youth here in Las Vegas. He needed somebody to come in to tell their story to a bunch of middle school kids, which I could relate to. When I was in middle school, I was homeless. That's one of the messages I sent or gave to the kids. And I let them know, wherever you're at right now in life, that's not the end of your story. At that age, I was homeless, and now here I am, entrepreneur, working for myself, making a change in the world, in the Las Vegas community.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I'm going to segue real quick into that. You talking to the youth, you being able to relate to that story. Decision making was an important part of your life. And what a lot of people don't realize is that we're making decisions on a continuous basis, whether we're aware of it or not. It's the decision to take this job or not take this job, to be in this relationship, not take this relationship, the decision of what we're putting on our bodies or how we're presenting ourselves. And some decisions that we make lead us down a pathway that is not great. And other decisions we make can be purposeful and dynamic for our lives. And sometimes it's the smallest decision that can create and change the trajectory of your life. So I want to kind of break down decision making, especially when it pertains to being at a crossroad. And actually what's interesting is a lot of people that I coach, when they're looking for coaching, is because they're facing decisions that they need to make. And they don't have a lot of clarity as to how to make the decision, especially when they're hard decisions such as ending relationships or setting boundaries with family or changing careers or things like that. So I want to kind of delve into it. You are actually facing some crossroads in your life that you've been sharing with me. You're training me, I'm coaching you. So we've got this cool little dynamic, you and I. And you and I were talking in the gym, and you're like, Lo, I want to come on the show. Let's pound this out. Let's talk about this whole decision thing. And I thought this would be really, really great for you and I to do this live kind of thing, right? And of course, you and I have already done quite a bit of work together. So the first thing I want to break down is, for the people out there listening, is when we are talking about making a big decision for our life, and I'm going to say hard decisions. The first thing to do is to say, what is it that I am trying to decide? It's this versus this versus this versus that. And I always tell you, you need to write this down. It cannot be something you're pondering constantly and mulling over in your mind. You need to be able to literally look down at it. So tap into that. Tell me a little bit about that as it pertains to you and decisions you're making in your life.
So as we do our sessions and you help me gain a lot of clarity, and that's the main thing you said, is having clarity of the overall vision in your head, and then dissecting that all the way down to what I can do now to me make that decision. And I will say, you tell me all the time, write it. And I say, yeah, I will. And for whatever reason, I'm hard-headed. So I haven't wrote it down. I don't write it down. Keep it in my head. So therefore, my mind goes all over. I have the idea of what I want to do, but then life happens. I got to train people. I get caught up. I forget. And
excuses.
And then new stuff comes in my brain.
Right.
And next thing you know, I've kind of forgot about the pros and cons of the decision that needs to be made.
Right.
So I think one thing I do have to do still is sit my eyes down, set a time aside, and take the time to write down all the thoughts
that
are going into the decisions, pros, cons, all those things.
And the reason why it's so important, why I always emphasize to people you have to write it down, is because there's a lot of things that are kind of coming in and out, right? There's a lot of fleeting thoughts about the decision, a lot of back and forth, right? A lot of times we go into this rationalization of our mind of why to pick this versus this, why to stay where I'm at versus move forward. Because usually the decision has to do with shaking up of something that you're familiar with and that you're comfortable with, and you have this desire that you need change. And so this is why I always say you have to write this stuff down, because you need to see it. It's a lot of stuff moving around. You need to be able to organize it and to put it into place. The second thing that I feel that is important when making a decision is understanding your why. There are things and places that you are in your life currently, and you and I have talked about this. You're in a certain space in your life right now because of other decisions you had to make in order for you to get here. And a lot of times when that's an accomplishment in and of itself, we're sometimes afraid to leave it because it's a safety net for us, right? And so then going on to the next thing, there's a couple different dynamics happening, usually one of two things. Either you're afraid of your failure or you're afraid of your own success. And you and I talked about that. So when I ask you to understand your why, do you know why you feel like you need to make the decision you are on your crossroad? And do you want to share what it is, or do you not?
Not yet. Not until I make the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty made up, but I'm waiting to 100% confirm it. About 85, 90% there.
Yeah.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So the question is understanding your why. What is it that's compelling you to even be in a position to have to make this decision?
The idea that I want to grow and obviously just level up, get better. And yeah, so that's the main thing. It's really what the why is. Like, this decision could, I'm not gonna say make me or break me, but it can take me down a path that gets me to the bigger picture. So I'm just making sure that I fully see the decision through on both ends, before just making a rash decision off emotions.
So this is what I mean when I say understanding your why, right? Because that's very vague. It's not that it's not important and it's not relevant, but it's vague. It's not compelling. And when we're needing to make a decision, and now, I always tell you, your clarity is always going to be your power. It's being clear of what you see, what you envision for yourself, and what is it, that thing that's going to set you on fire to do it. And when we are in that crossroad of making a decision, again, whether it's a career change or whether it's leaving a career, like I had to make a big decision several months ago to walk away from a very lucrative career, particularly that was glamorous, and it gave me a specific identity construct that made me feel somewhat empowered. It was a powerful position that I had. And I really was at a crossroads to say, do I really want to give this up to pursue this thing that I felt was greater than me? And to really get out of that comfort zone of that check coming in every 2 weeks, those bonuses coming in every quarter, to really get out of that, as I really had to sit in self and get clear about what is my why. Why is this no longer serving me? Or why am I unhappy in this space? Why am I open to opportunity? Because if opportunity or other things come your way, there's a reason why you're even being triggered. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what would you say is your why? What is triggering you to this opportunity? It didn't come off the fly. It came because there were certain things being put in motion, and then you start to pay attention to things.
I would say kind of what you just said, my purpose of something bigger than myself. So I think that's probably my why.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's my why, is I'm understanding there's something bigger than just me, that I'm trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when the decision came up, or this opportunity came up, it was like, wow, this decision I make can help me with that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Is that open enough?
Well, yeah,
Or am I still
because
vague?
sometimes even though it's clear to us which direction we should go in,
Yeah.
we are so afraid of the unknown in that decision that we become a little trigger shy. We don't pull the trigger. And I was just talking to this girl the other day, actually, and we were talking about, I was using free falling, skydiving, as a metaphor to life and making decisions. Ironically, we were talking about this. And I said to her, the anticipation of making a decision is like that anticipation of getting on the plane and flying up into this altitude, knowing you're getting ready to jump, but still having a choice to not take the leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that anxiety and everything that builds up inside of you, waiting to make that jump, can be paralyzing. It can be terrifying, because then you go into these thoughts of, what if I jump and the parachute doesn't open? What if I this or that? Or what if I don't land properly? What if, all of these things start to go through your mind, and life is like that. But I always tell people there's 3 stages to all of that. You have to climb to the altitude in order for you to be able to jump safely, right? Because doesn't make sense to jump midway up. You got to get to a specific altitude so that jump makes sense. But when you do jump, you're like, okay, I did it. And now you're free falling, and the parachute comes up and you're like, okay, I'm okay. The third thing is when you land and realizing, okay, I've landed, now what? Because where you land is not where you took off from. And so when you're making decisions, it's about breaking all of that down and getting clear. So this is why I go on to the next one, which is the goal. I'm nervous about making this decision. I know there's an anticipation. Am I, number one, at the right altitude? Have I got to that next step, that next peak in my mountain, that it is time for me to take that leap? For you, the decision that you made from where your lifestyle was to this one may have been an easier decision for you to make, because it was kind of life or death for you. So what was it then for you that made you make a decision to completely turn your life around? Not one drink here, I'm going to drink socially, but to say, absolutely, I'm cutting everything off, and this is the focal point for my life. What was the altitude you had to reach at that point to make that leap for you?
Understanding that I just wanted better for myself. And then, unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way a lot of times with alcohol and all the things that came with it. And I was replaying in my head not too long ago, really thinking about all the events that have occurred negatively to me. Almost all involved alcohol. So I had to sit with myself and just be honest, like, damn, do I really want to be better, or am I just going to talk about it? And I realized, of all things, that was the common denominator, was the alcohol. And my relationship with it wasn't the best. Some people, like I always say, some people could drink 1 or 2 drinks and be okay. That wasn't for me. I was the person balls to the wall every time I touched alcohol. So I realized my purpose, which is here to help others and be a service to others. And for me to be my best self, alcohol couldn't be in the game anymore.
Was your compelling why at that time, because I'm going to go back to the why,
Yeah.
to save yourself?
Yes.
Or to save others?
Ooh, interesting. I'm gonna say save myself.
Okay. And where is your level now?
Saving others.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is the altitude, and that's the compelling why. It's about being able to tap into that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so it's like, here I am at a crossroad, but what is it that is compelling me? When you get that clarity in that, then you get your power. Is the thing that I'm doing right now in my life going to support that narrative that I feel is greater than myself? I had to rescue myself first. So that platform I'm currently in has served that for me. But now I'm on that next thing. You landed in a different space. Now you're getting on your next plane to ride the altitude again, to jump again.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
So this is why I say to you, you have to get clear. And everything, when it comes to those decisions you're making, this is why you need to write them down. My why is because I feel I want to be a servant by saving others. What does that look like for you? How do you break that down? Well, I'm going to serve others by speaking and motivating, by sharing my story, by understanding, like helping youth and people understand this. I'm going to contribute through charity. So you have this picture of all these things that you want to do. Then you look down at the decision. But you have to be able to see these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, all right, this world over here allows me this, and that. Because the reality is, and sometimes this is why decisions are hard, is because you can make it work for both sides. But what is really going to propel you where you can be laser focused on being comfortable in the decision that you made, regardless of whether or not it works out? Because that's another thing that we struggle with when we're looking to make decisions. It's like, if I make this decision, will it work out? Will I regret what I've done? You start to question all of those things. So how do you think you can navigate through the potential of regret?
By writing it down. I think, like you always tell me, and I just don't freaking do it. And I think it's getting to a point where deadline's coming, it's crunch time, and I got to get out of my head, you know? And like you also told me too, is make the decision and close that door. Live with the consequences, whether they're good, bad. And I don't think too many decisions will be bad. I think it'll be a decision, and it's my reaction to that decision, how I move forward when I hit adversity or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So that's where I'm at now. And just now I kind of just got more clarity just hearing you say it in that way. So now I feel more confident in the decision that needs to be made, but I still want to write it down so I can see the bigger picture, like you said. Because the bigger picture is in my mind,
right? But
that can literally change once I leave here, and then I start thinking about other things.
Well, the bigger picture can overwhelm you too.
Oh, yes, it does.
And so it's like reverse engineering. I always tell people, eat the elephant one bite at a time. And a lot of times people get stuck. They know the decision they have to make, but it is such a big decision in their mind that they don't know where to start, right? And sometimes a decision requires you to completely start over, and that could be daunting. It could be very scary. You know, I wrote this down, you know, and I said this to you earlier, and this is not for me to be biblical, but I'm a biblical, God-fearing woman, so a lot of my basis comes from that.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah, right? Amen, hallelujah. But there's one of the biggest takeaways I've ever gotten from, two things actually. Faith without work is dead. I believe that you have to put work into whatever you have faith in, right? And when it comes to decisions, some people have a hard time because they're not, the idea of the work is overwhelming, right? But if you have the faith, you have to move and put it into motion. The other thing is that the greatest sin you'll ever commit in your life is the sin of indecision, because it leaves you in limbo. It leaves you stuck in a place. And the obsession with outcome, with decision, is what will keep you in prison from making the decision, right?
Yeah.
And understanding that just making the decision will liberate you, as long as you promise yourself not to be obsessed with a specific outcome. It's like, I went through the door, I'm going to close the door, and I'm not looking back, regardless of the outcome. It may not happen the way I envision it, but the fact that I got clarity, and that clarity was powerful enough for me to move forward with this choice, I can sit with that and be good with that no matter what happens. And I always like to emphasize that to people. Like, what is the expectation? What are your expectations with your decision? What do you need for it to happen for you? And what will happen if it doesn't happen that way? Will you be able to still live with the decision that you made? So this is where it goes to the next slide, which is facing the facts. This is a big one. When you're looking to make a decision for your life, you have to face the facts. You have to be clear on what it is that you're up against. Whether, again, and I'm going to repeat this, whether it's a career change, whether you're making a decision to move on from a relationship you've been in, whether it's cutting certain people off, whether it's burning the boats in a job and starting a new business, what are the facts? And I think, again, and this is, again, going back to writing it all down. So when you think about the decisions you have to make, are you clear on facing the facts of what one decision would mean over another?
Am I clear on the facts?
Yeah.
Not yet, no.
Mm-hmm.
I got an idea of them, but yeah, no.
An idea up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I suggest. You write both things down.
Yeah.
Right now, this is what's current. Here are the facts about what's current. And when I say write it down, break it down. Am I happy? Am I growing here? Does this make me feel like I'm expanding or shrinking? Have I communicated? Have I been clear on my decision that I make with others that it's going to affect? Will this affect other people? How will it affect them? How will it affect me? Who am I making a priority? These are the questions you got to ask about your current circumstance. If I decide to stay in this circumstance, what could I do different to handle these points that I'm making? In other words, like, if I feel like I'm not growing and I'm not happy, what could I actually proactively do to make that space and that circumstance better? And if I were to approve upon those things, would that still drive me and compel me to want to change or to make the decision to change? And so this is where you have to really face the facts. When you go to the other side of the decision, it's an unknown space. Usually when we're making a decision to move, we're moving with an unknown outcome. The decision we're living with is familiar. I can pretty much predict how that relationship's going, how it's going to go, how that job's going to go, that person at work that I have problems with, that boss that I can't, I can predict most of that, right? But over here, I can make these decisions. And the thing you have to be careful with is you can get grandiose and excited and create all these fluffy stories with that next move, but you have to face the facts there too. This is what I would love to happen. This is what I'm hoping will happen. But what if this doesn't work out? What if that doesn't work out? What if that doesn't work? Will I still be good with the decision that I made? Because once you go through, you close the door. And you get clarity in that. Once I go through, I close the door. I'm not looking back. Make sense?
Yeah, I think part of it is what we talk about in our sessions is the control thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Is me giving up some of that control or understanding I don't need to be in control of everything besides myself, obviously. And that's one thing I'm starting to accept and realize is worrying about me. And like I told you, the quote I heard this morning, yesterday, I'm responsible for the energy I bring into the room. So that's one thing. I'm glad I heard it the other day because it was like, damn, okay. It was kind of like confirmation of what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. You know, what's interesting is most people struggle with the need to control things. And it's fear because if I don't control what's happening, then the world's going to fall apart or circumstances will fall apart or there'll be chaos. And usually it's tied to some psychological childhood trauma, right? But the reality is the more we feel the need to control things, the more out of control we become because you just simply can't. And I think I was telling you recently, I'm reading a book, The Seven, I've read it before, but I'm rereading it, and revisiting the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book. And one of the first ones is to understand whether or not you're reactionary or if you're being proactive. And I think I shared this a little bit with you. And understanding where your influence is coming from. Are you where the circle is outside influencing you? Or are you the one that's influencing the outside? And it kind of goes along the lines with the quote that you're making.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think when we are getting ready to make big decisions, hard decisions for our lives, the first step you have to do is how proactive have I been up to this point? Have I really exhausted every opportunity in this space that I can say I can comfortably walk away from this? And is it in alignment? You're smiling over there. And is it in alignment with my vision?
Oh my God.
Because that makes you go back and forth again?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens every time. Every time. 'Cause I'm like, okay, I got it in my head. And then you'll bring up a good point. I'm like, oh, okay, well, actually. So then I second guess it. So now I'm back teetering on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay.
But this is, again, why I tell you have to write things
it
down. Because your clarity, your compelling why. My next level for me, the altitude and the plane that I'm getting ready to jump out of, is to serve other people by helping to save them to some capacity the way I needed saving. Is this decision over here, I can grow and expand and this and that, but is it in alignment with that vision? Or is it going to take me away from it? Because here's another thing too when we're making decisions. We're looking at a few different things, right? And this is why we kind of go back and forth. And I'll use a relationship as an example. Let's say I'm in a relationship that I'm unhappy in. I'm miserable. I'm not feeling fulfilled. I don't feel connected to this person. There's distance. And I'm not talking about abusive, toxic relationships. I'm talking about relationships that have just kind of fizzled and faded and there's a breakdown. Now, I could say I want to leave because I'm not happy and we're just never going to get it. And there's always the same thing over and over and over again. Or I could say to myself, have I been accountable to how I participate in this relationship? Have I really, truly put forth the effort? And do I really know that the growth that myself and this person has is literally at a standstill? Because of these things in my life, the direction I want to go, it's not supported here. And if I stay, financially, I'll be secure. Oh, wait a minute, I can't just leave. I mean, this person is helping me out financially. Or, oh my gosh, what do the kids think and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so we start to rationalize, but you got to get clear. I'm looking in my relationship to grow, and I have this vision for my life outside of this relationship to help people do this or to grow this business. And this person does not support that growth no matter how much I've done. So it's about getting the clarity and making sure it's in alignment. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or does it sound like I'm a rambling idiot?
No.
A little bit of both?
Yeah, a little combo. It's okay. I'm following.
I'm trying to make it clear because there are so many ways to be on the seesaw.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go up and down and up and down. But you have to get clear as to why the decision needs to be made.
For the greater good.
I will always emphasize that because that is your power. All right, so the next thing I have here is the pros and cons.
Okay.
And kind of like what I was just rambling about. You really need to sit down and think about what are the pros if I make this move. And this is, again, facing the facts. It kind of circles back to facing the facts. And what are the cons? If I make this decision, here are all the wonderful things that could come of it. Again, these are the things that could come of it. I'm not going to put every decision on that these are have-tos or they must happen this way because I can't control that. But ideally, these are the things that could come of this decision-making, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cons, well, everything could completely go the opposite way. And can you live with that? And this is why it's important to sit and write that down too. Because you got to have a backup plan. Remember what I said, you're taking off, you're jumping out, and then you got to land. And when you land, you might break an ankle. You might land and hit your head and get a concussion and be passed out and fall asleep at the wheel, so to speak. So you have to also be prepared that, yeah, okay, the parachute worked, but the landing might not always be executed perfectly. And then what am I going to do when you have those setbacks? And you got to weigh those things out. Have you done that?
In my mind. So like I said, everything's in my mind and I do need to write it out so it's on paper, then I can revert back to it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my decision was made and then I hear something and I'm like, oh, okay. But then I forget. So if I were to write those things down, I can compare and contrast back and forth.
Right. And it just makes it bigger. It makes the picture bigger. And like I told you, even if you're writing, like we have mental habits of when we think. And we have mental patterns of what we think about on a regular basis. We're already programmed for it. So there are specific times throughout your day that this decision and the pondering of the decision is heavier than others. There are certain environments that you are in where you get triggered by really thinking about it. It is in those moments that you really need to start jotting things down without it having to be organized or perfectly put. It just needs to come out, right? So it doesn't go in these little rooms inside your head. It needs to get out so you can see all the kids at play. All these little kids running around your head. You need to like get them all out. Oh, this is the fear kid. This kid's afraid of failure. Oh, this is the kid who's afraid of their success. This is the one who's afraid of the unknown. And you need to put these little kids in their place in the classroom because you're the teacher. You're the one in charge of your life. That's the one thing that you get to control. But you need to see all these little children that are running amok in your head, right? And so you need to have, like I told you, to get your phone out, do a voice note, write it on a thing, keep a little pad. I always will emphasize pen and paper. There's something about the way it connects when you have these thoughts and these feelings and you're writing it down. Because as you're writing, you're purging, and then other stuff will come up. And you just cluster it, and then you start organizing. Okay, these things are proactive for me. These are the things that are making the decision more clear. These are the things that are causing some confusion in the decision. These are the things that are whatever. And you start to put them in categories. And again, it's like, this is the vision. This is what I want. This is what I see. Me as the speaker, me as the guy that's serving people and helping people. These are the projects that I want. What are the things that I need to do? And does this decision get in the way of it, or does it support it? And everything that you can think of that is towards that. Again, I'll go back to a relationship. I want a happy, fulfilled, loving, endearing relationship. What does that look like for me? Well, it starts with me. I got to love and be fulfilled with self. And these are the things I'm going to do for me. And I'm just going to work on that first. And this thing doesn't align with that. This thing makes me unhappy. And you have to start being able to really see it and then go towards those things. Does that make sense?
It does.
So the next thing is the impact. I'm going to send you this list, okay? I'm going to make you do this homework.
All right.
And I'm going to repeat this whole thing before we end. What is the impact? When you make the decision, what is the impact that you really want it to have on your life? And is this decision going to support that? So are you clear on that?
Yeah.
Do you know what the impact is that you want to have for your life? Not for others. Because obviously that's a mission. That's something your vision is for, but what is the impact it's going to have on your life? And get clear on that. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to make a decision that you feel that if the outcome doesn't come out the way you want it to, that it causes a setback in your life. And you have to be very clear about that so you can mentally prepare yourself. Because I can tell you right now, any decision that we make in our lives, that are, especially when they're hard decisions, they never work out exactly the way we planned them in our mind. But it doesn't mean that because it didn't act or didn't happen the way we planned it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? What is it? What's that saying? Life does things when you're making other plans or something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about?
No, but
whatever.
I kind of get your message. I get your message. I
feel like I'm rambling about this. No, because I feel like, I know it's like, I feel like I'm being a little bit redundant with certain things, but I can't emphasize it enough, especially you and I talk so much. And I could tell how you light up when you talk about what you want. I could tell how you get really clear for a second, then you get really murky in another second. I can see that other things that really don't matter get in the way of making the decision. Like we were talking about today, and I'm like, you're mulling over that? That's I'm
God.
like, I can fix that for you right now. But it's just, and we're not aware of it. Why? Because it's all up in here. Well, if I could just do this and just do that, if I could do this, and like, okay. You're trying to talk yourself out of making a decision off of a very small choice.
100%. That's crazy you said, because I think about it every time. And I'm glad I'm aware, because there's times where after I'm in my head, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Then I get to myself and I literally nitpick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I don't really, like back to relationship. We use that as an example. Well, actually, we don't like how they chew with their mouth open. Like the littlest thing I've been trying to find to justify why I shouldn't make the decision. So I try to catch myself, and then today was a good example. I'm glad you caught it because I didn't even think about it that way until I said it, and you were like, really? That's what come on, that's not the real issue. You're trying to find an excuse, a cop out.
Yeah.
And I had to be honest with myself, Amaya, you're right. And I'm trying to get past that part of, like I said, trying to find the littlest reason to justify not making a decision.
Yeah. And the awareness is important, right? And this is obviously, you have me coaching you so I can pick up on things that you're not picking up because it's so subconscious, right? It's a subliminal thing that you're doing. And we all do it, the cognitive dissonance, the rationalization that we do inside our minds when we have to make decisions is we start to rationalize why we shouldn't, well, if I do this, if they can't do this or this, they don't get this done, I ain't doing it. And it's like, is that really, this is where you have to be really honest with yourself and say, is this really what it's going to take for me to pull the trigger on this decision here? And so the last thing I have here is the emotions and core values, right?
Oh, that one's good.
A big thing that I emphasize to people when I'm coaching them is to really get them to write down what their core values are. Because everybody's core values are different. And you don't start off knowing exactly in the order of priority that they are, but it's important to write them all down. What are the things that are super, super important to you for your life? So let's say I'm going to say family, self-care, self-love, reading, spiritual life, making money, being physically healthy. What are certain things that are core values? And I just write them all down. And then you break it down. Now, when I look at this and I can only pick 5, what would those 5 be? Without any specific order, what would those 5 be? Okay, they would be this, and that. Now I need you to really look at that list. And I want you to envision all of those things on that list and where they really, truly rank in your life today. Because that can change over time, right? Like for me, for example, a core value of mine at one point was my son was number 1. Everything that I did, he came first. This is when he was a child. He's an adult now. So although he is very much high ranked in my level of priorities, he's not number 1 because he's a grown man. And I had to move that. So relationship has become a higher priority for my own personal relationship with myself and then my most intimate relationship. Those two weren't at number 1 and 2. Work was higher ranked at one point.
Wow.
So it's understanding what those core values are, getting clarity and saying no matter what I do, it cannot be out of an alignment with those core values. And to think this decision, if I stay here, will that take me out of alignment? Will that put work over purpose?
Wow. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That was good.
Because work and purpose are important for me, but purpose comes first. What is purpose? I'm clear on that. What is work? I'm clear on that. Because sometimes we put work before purpose, and that's not in the space we're in right now. We're ready to be purpose-driven, not provisionally driven. So it's very clear and very important that you understand what your core values are. And every decision you make, say, okay, this decision, where does it go? And is that in alignment? Because if it's not in alignment with self, you will feel off-centered the entire time. You won't feel good. You'll feel uneasy. You'll be irritable. And it's all because of these little tweaks, because you're making sure everything's fulfilled. It just is not in the right order. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I need you to write your core values down.
Okay.
And get clarity in them. Why is this number 1? Why is this number 2? Top 5. Because there's a lot of things that are important to you, but you got to narrow it down to 5. And then the emotion thing I put on there. But sometimes we're so cerebral about the decision we need to make that we forget to tap into how it's going to make us feel. Especially when the decision we think that we're getting ready to make might be of servitude to others. Because we can very much envision maybe how it would make other people feel, we hope. But we have to check in with the emotional setbacks it's going to give to us, even if it's something great. Starting over is hard. And being able to say, I'm going to make this decision, but I have to be clear and in touch with how it's going to make me feel. And it's going to be funky, even if it's a great decision you're making, just because it's not familiar sometimes. And anytime we're interrupting a human pattern, our body, our physiological being, the way we like, let's say it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
There is a physiological being. Let's say you've been on that job. My job, I was on that job for almost 15 years. There was a physiological aspect that was programmed over 15 years that got me up a certain time every day with the intention to get ready for that job, to drive a certain route every day, to go to this place, interact with these people. And it was a routine literally for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
So although in the end I lost the fire for it and the desire and everything, the habit was so physiologically ingrained in me that when I interrupted that pattern of, wait, I'm not going to get up and drive to that place anymore. Wait, I'm not going to go have coffee with that person anymore. Wait, I'm not going to argue with that boss about this anymore. All of these things, it's a shock to your system. And so you have to be really clear to say, you know what? This is a big decision I'm making. I'm excited about the decision I'm making, but I know that's going to make me feel a little funky at times, to the point where it's going to put you in a slump. You got to be real with that. You got some homework to do, homie.
Yeah, I know. Shit.
But you're thinking, so tell me what, all this stuff that I'm saying, because I'm rambling quite a bit, but tell me what your thoughts are, your feelings are, what is clear to you about what I've said.
Then I need to do homework.
Okay, what is the homework?
Go through all those slides, to be honest, because I never thought about a lot of those things that can involve a decision.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has been, obviously, I try to be more logical than emotional, but even then, I don't think that's enough.
Why do you try to be more logical than emotional?
Because emotional, those feelings come and go.
Do they?
Yeah.
I disagree.
What? They do in the moment.
Are you talking about reaction to emotion or the emotion itself?
The emotion itself.
They never come and go. They stay.
Nobody's happy all day. I'll be happy for a second, but then eventually they'll fade for some time period. Then I might be scared at one point. That goes away. Might feel
Doesn't
sad.
go away. They're all the little kids that sit nestled in you, and you're the teacher, and it's who you call on in the classroom. You're like, little fear right there, I need you to start acting up. Little happy dude over there, I need you to start acting up. The one that's always questioning every single question, I need you to start asking questions. They never leave you. It's just, who are you giving opportunity to speak? This is why emotions are important, that we don't treat them as though they're fleeting things in our lives. It's part of being human, is to be emotional. When we try to be overly cerebral and intellectualize everything, we're not listening to what's at our core. You are the teacher, and everything you think and feel are the little students inside your head. Who are you asking to speak? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your feelings don't leave you. We react. The reaction to feelings come and go. But happiness, I could trigger you to be happy in 2 seconds. And while you're in that happy space, I could trigger you to be angry just as quickly. Now, if they were things that came and went, I wouldn't be able to get you to switch so fast. It's a powerful thing that we need to understand, right? It's like Tony Robbins teaches us. You know, I've gotten some certifications through his courses, but just the shift of your body, just a millimeter, I think it's an eighth or whatever, I can't remember the measurement, but just a quick shift can completely change everything, right? A person who's sad can posture like this and change their tone of voice. The moment you pull back and you change the tone of your voice, it switches you. The point that I'm making is that every emotion is in there. You just have to tap in. Who is the student you're calling on inside your mind? And allow that student to feel and to react, or to be proactive in that. And sometimes the kids speak out of line. Sometimes they're disobedient. Sometimes you gotta put them in a corner. And then sometimes there's an evaluator in the room. There's an observer. Everybody's on the best behavior when there's an observer in the room. You know who the observer is?
Me.
It's you.
Teacher.
No, you're the teacher, which is your ego construct. It's who you think you are and what you think you're supposed to be doing in this life. It's all of what your experiences have told you. That's the teacher calling the students. The observer is the silent thing that's listening. When you're sitting still in your head and there's all this chatter going on, what is that thing that's listening to it? That's the observer. And the more you become aware of that observer, the more you can get order in your room. Because everybody behaves when they know somebody's watching.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So, in conclusion, I'm going to repeat these. Decision. The decision, what is the decision? Write it down. What is the decision I need to make? It needs to be written down. Understanding why the decision is even there in the first place. What is going on in my life that this decision has become an opportunity for me? Why is it happening? And why do I want it to happen? Okay. The next thing, the goal. What is the goal in this decision that I'm going to make? If I make this decision, what do I want? And what am I hopeful for it to happen? Okay. And I'm going to give you the slide.
Yeah, I want it.
Okay. Face the facts. Okay. I'm clear on what I want at the goals. I have this idea of what the outcome. What are the facts? What are the real hardcore facts if I stay or if I make this decision? And what am I going to do if the outcome that I'm fantasizing about doesn't actually happen? The next thing, the pros and cons. And again, it goes in alignment with the facts. What are the pros here? What are the cons here on both sides of it? And again, correlate it with what those facts are, facing the facts and being true to yourself about that. Because like I said, the decision can be a really great decision for your life. But you got to be honest about the work it's going to take to stay fulfilled in that, or you'll find yourself in another situation that you're not happy in. And that means you're going to have to do your work.
Yeah.
You have to show up for you, right? The impact. What is the impact of this decision going to have for my life? Then for the other people who are making this decision, how is it going to impact me? Then the others. Emotions and core values. Your emotions are here in your life to serve you. It is part of being human. When we have emotional triggers, which will happen whenever we're facing hard decisions, we need to be very aware of what that emotion is signaling for us, what it is trying to tell us, and we need to be clear on what our core values are as it stands today. The reason why I say this, and I emphasize this as well, is sometimes when we started a journey, you started a journey that got you here to this next decision for your life. The core values you had then probably are a lot different today because there were different reasons why you needed to make that decision for your life. And so sometimes we're still operating off of that order of those core values when the order has changed. And so that will help you get more clarity in, is this decision more in alignment with who I am today? We always got to check in with our core values and see how they're changing in our lives because they evolve like we do. Any questions?
No.
You've been a great listener today. I'm very proud of you. This is my payback for you torturing me in the gym.
I've been practicing active listening.
I like that.
You know, and a lot of times, one thing I want to get better at is communicating, obviously with my clients and just people when you don't speak. And I think one thing I would struggle with is your urge and eagerness to want to respond back and things like that. So sometimes I really just, okay, let me hear, take it in and process it all the way through.
And I love that. I mean, I challenged you the other day at the gym. There was a woman who asked you to do something. There's a bunch of kids, and your heart naturally wants to be helping the kids. There's all those kids in the gym that were coming in to volunteer stuff. And she said, can you go over there and do a session with the kids? And you really did not want to do it because you really didn't have the time to do it. But you did not tell her the truth. Well, if I have time, huh? I said, no, you're going to go over there and you're going to honor her with the truth. So that way she has a decision to put somebody in place or ask somebody, you cannot be afraid. And you're like, damn it, Lorraine. But you went over there and you did it. Because communication is a big thing, right? And then we'll talk about this next week because we're gonna do some heavy lifting tomorrow. You're gonna make me do heavy lifting throughout the week, and then I'm gonna do some heavy lifting with you next week, some mental heavy lifting, and we're gonna break down communication because as you and I have been working together, that is the one thing that gets in your way. Because then what happens is when you're not communicating, you start assuming, and then you get frustrated, and it becomes a little bit of a setback for you. So we're gonna break all that stuff down. So what do you have to say? Tell people how they can get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of me on Instagram at Dorian Wormsley. I am a fitness coach. Once again, you need help getting in shape mentally or physically, I'm your man. I have partnered up with a football player of UNLV. His name is Jordan Morgan. He is one of the best safeties in college football. He has a backpack drive and a free youth football camp. So it's July 22nd. him and his teammates are going to put together a free football camp for the youth ages 4 through 12. We're collecting backpacks and school supplies at the self-made training facility, 5959 South Valley View Boulevard. So if you want to come drop some stuff off, you can check my Instagram out for the registration link for the youth football camp. I think it's great that he's a college athlete and already has a nonprofit to help the youth. I think it's very important, and I think it's great that he's doing that at a young age. I wish I did. And yeah, he's newer to the city, so I want to try to help him get word out and just bring the community together.
And no wishing.
Yeah,
that you did it. You're doing it. Yeah.
Doing
and
it.
You know what I want to say real quick before we go. I appreciate your openness to do this with me, the vulnerability that comes with that. And what I love, and I'm just putting it out there, what I love even when you're training me and coaching me physically, is that you don't approach your coaching and training with just let's get in the gym and get physically fit. You have a mindset and a way of encouraging and inspiring while you are physically training people. So if anybody out there is looking to physically get fit, but mentally get strong as well, Dorian is definitely your man.
Let
So get in touch with him.
Let him know.
So thank you guys so much for watching. I will add these bullet points on to the description in the show, as well as ways to get in contact with Dorian. And if you've watched this long, do not forget to hit the subscription button, spread the love, let other people know that the show exists. And until next time, ciao.